Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of the most common phrases that I get from PMDD partners. That means the partners who have PMDD and the partners do not have PMDD. And that is, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells in this relationship. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells with my partner. And I know exactly what this feels like. I've been there so many times where I feel like nothing I say is going to be the right thing to say. Nothing I say is good enough. Everything I say turns into an argument. Maybe there's something that I want to talk to my partner about, but I feel like I can't, but it's like still like sitting inside of me and I'm just like being with them and I'm talking to them. I'm saying things, but I'm not really saying the things that I need to say. So this is what it means to really walk on eggshells, because you're feeling like everything that you could say can be held against you in the court of law, AKA your relationship, because you're thinking about times in the past where you've said things to your PMDD partner and it's turned into an argument. You said things to your PMDD partner, it's turned into a fight. It's turned into you feeling misunderstood. And so today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why you feel like you're walking on eggshells in your PMDD relationship and what you can really do about it, because I know how torturous that can feel, because the things that you need to say to your partner don't go away. And PMDD just like has them ruminating in your mind, all of these intrusive thoughts about what about this and what about that and what about this. And it's probing you to say something, but you're almost feeling like you're too scared to, because you don't know the reaction of your partner, especially if you have this fear of conflict. You know, you have this fear of confrontation. You don't really want to say the wrong thing. You don't want the whole vibe to be off. You don't want to be taken out of context. You don't want to be misunderstood. So you just feel like the best thing for you to do is to just say nothing when you really have all of these things to say. And so you end up walking on eggshells. So I'm going to give you some reasons as to why you feel like you're walking on eggshells, or why your partner may feel like they're walking on eggshells. And the first thing is the shifts in your mood. So because depending on what part of your cycle you may be in, you react differently to comments than you would in each phase of your cycle. So when you're in your follicular days, I remember being criticized by my PMDD partner in my follicular days, and I didn't get offended. And, you know, I've always talked about my biggest thing with partners is getting offended. I didn't get offended when I was in my follicular days. I was more understanding. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, babe. Or I can see how you took it that way. And, you know, they almost let their guard down. They're like, wow, so I can really talk to her about things and she not get upset and she not get angry and she not take it personally and she not go off on me. Then maybe when you go into your luteal phase, when you're in PMDD, you do one or two things. You either go off on them because you're getting really defensive and you're saying, oh, you feel like I do this, I guess I'm just the bad guy. Or what is it that you do? Maybe you do this too. So you either get really combative, really defensive, or you immediately shut down, which is stonewalling, which is what that was my go-to. Every single time that my partner would bring something up to me, that I felt was criticism, and I took it really personally. When I was in PMDD, I would just immediately shut down. They immediately didn't feel safe to me. I immediately felt like I had to walk on eggshells because I felt like, well, if they took this thing that I told them out of context, then they could do the same thing with all of these other things that I have to say. So the safest thing for me is to just say nothing. And for so long, I thought stonewalling, which is basically shutting down on your partner, stopping communication, disconnecting, pulling the plug on you being connected to your partner, I thought that was the right thing to do. I thought that, created the least amount of damage. But for someone who has an anxious attachment style, stonewalling them, AKA shutting down on them, causes the most damage because then they start creating these stories in their mind and they don't have anyone to talk to about them. They have an issue with you. They have a fear regarding something that you said and did when you're in PMDD, and they can't even talk to you about it because you're just like, everything's fine. I'm fine. Or pretty much like, I don't have the problem. You have the problem. You're not wanting to talk about it. So there's almost like gripping at it, like trying to get you to talk about what it is that's really bothering you because they know that something's bothering you. But instead of just addressing it and saying, yeah, this is really bothering me, you're walking on eggshells. You're not saying it. And so it causes them to suffer. I know if you have an anxious attachment style, that causes you to suffer. If you have avoidant attachment style, what that looks like is you shut down, your partner shuts down, and nobody's talking to anybody. Like, and then it's really hard to reconnect after that because you're both going to your own corners. So think about a boxing ring. You both, like, we ring the bell and then both of you retreat back to your corners. That's what an avoidant attachment style looks like when you're doing that kind of stonewalling. With the anxious attachment style, looks like one partner goes back in the ring because they're trying to like talk it out, they're trying to fight it out, they're trying to get through it. They would almost rather argue and fight with you than to not talk to you at all. So you have one partner in the ring and one partner sitting there on the sideline, avoiding them. So the next thing that happens that makes you feel like you want to walk on eggshells with your partner is the increased anger, the PMDD rage that has happened in the past. When you have had really traumatic moments in the past with your PMDD partner, you may assume that another one of those moments are going to happen again. And so in order to avoid them, you start walking on eggshells. They're like, hey, babe, is everything okay? You're like, everything is fine. It's almost that toxic positivity where you're making it seem like everything's great when it's really not. And it's really not, but you don't feel like you're in a safe place to express that to your partner. So you have this irritability and anger that you're trying to avoid. So if you're the partner that doesn't have PMDD, you may be trying to avoid the PMDD rage. And if you're the partner that has PMDD, I've been in situations where I've tried to avoid my partner getting angry. So rage is not just something for individuals that have PMDD. Your partner can have rage too. And you may be in that place of trying to really avoid it because it really scares you and you don't like how you act when your partner is angry at you. Maybe you respond in PMDD rage after your partner has yelled at you. That's always been my experience. I'm not a person that is going to initially yell, but if you start yelling, raising your voice at me, name calling, all of those things, I can get into that place of PMDD rage and really act out of character, really be so angry, so pissed off, so triggered that I say and do things that are completely out of character. And then I immediately feel guilty about it afterwards. So the next way that you can feel like you're walking on eggshells with your partner is because you have this kind of like emotional sensitivity. You may take things that your partner is saying to heart. You may take them personally where they're not even talking to you specifically about things. Like they may say like, oh, sometimes I just feel like so frustrated and overwhelmed, or, oh, I may feel like this, or, oh, I'm feeling down. And you immediately think that you're the cause of it. Right? You're like, oh, so I'm the problem. This happens a lot of times where partners who have PMDD, they may start to get really depressed because that's one of the symptoms of PMDD. But then your partner's taking it personally and it's like, oh, I guess I'm making you depressed. So now you're feeling like you have to walk on eggshells and not really say what you're feeling because your partner's going to take it personally. You don't feel like you're in a safe place to acknowledge how you're feeling because your partner's going to think that they're the cause of it. And it's almost like understanding that not everything, not every mood that I'm in is because of my partner. Not every mood that I'm in is because of you. It may just be because of PMDD. PMDD may be having me in this depressed state, but I'm walking on eggshells with talking to you about it because you're going to think that you're the problem. And now, instead of the focus being on me and my mood that I'm in, it's going to be all about you. You're going to turn something that's genuinely about me and you're going to turn it to being about you. So when you have that emotional sensitivity, it's almost like you watch your words more. You watch what you say, you watch what you do, because you don't want to go into conflict. You don't want to be misunderstood. You don't want it to be turned around to where you're calling your partner the bad guy or they're feeling like they're the bad guy. You don't want that. And you don't want to go, because it's very dramatic, and you don't want to go through that drama. So you start walking on eggshells and really watching what you say and do. And the next way that you're walking on eggshells with your partner is if you've been in this season in your relationship where you're having a lot of frequent fights and arguments. Like you're having fights and arguments all throughout your PMDD. Like it used to be 1 or 2 times, a month that you would have these big blowups, but now you're starting to have them every single week, every couple of days. You're consistently fighting, and it's causing a lot of tension in your relationship. And it's almost like as soon as you overcome one thing, there's another thing that you have to overcome. So when you have this excessive amounts of conflict in your relationship, you start walking on eggshells because you're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. So I'm probably going to do nothing. Right? You're probably going to say and do nothing. And that leads to the next thing, which is the communication challenges. You start to communicate less with your PMDD partner because you don't want to make them upset. You don't want to trigger them. You don't want to make them mad. You don't want to, make them feel like you're calling them the bad guy. So you don't say anything. So they say, hey, babe, I'm noticing, something's different about you. Are you okay? And they're like, I'm fine. When you're not really fine. You're not really fine. But instead of being open and honest with your partner about it, you're choosing to avoid the issue that you're experiencing because you don't want to have any fights and arguments. So when you're breaking down the communication, what that also does is it breaks down the intimacy level, because now your partner doesn't know what's going on with you. You know what's going on with you. They can feel what's going on with you, but you're not ready to discuss it with them because you don't want it to turn into a fight. You don't want it to turn into an argument. And that goes into the next thing, which is this fear of rejection. You're fearing that your partner is going to reject something that you say. Like if you say, oh, I'm going through PMDD, so I feel this way, I feel this way. If you feel like your partner is going to dismiss you or be on guard because they know that you're in PMDD, like a lot of times we don't want to admit when we're in PMDD because then we feel like our partner is looking at us like, I guess everything's about PMDD. So you're fearing getting rejected. And so you're fearing that they're going to do something. You're almost trying to protect your partner from doing something that's going to hurt you. If you feel like they're going to say hurtful words, you probably won't bring up the issue that you have with them. I've been there so many times where I've known that the reason why I'm in the state that I'm in, whether I was depressed, whether I was anxious, a lot of times anxious, whether I was having intrusive thoughts, I knew that the reason why I was having those intrusive thoughts or feeling anxious or feeling depressed was because of something that my partner had done, but I feared being rejected by them. I feared them telling me that it was my fault. I feared them putting the blame back on me. I feared them shutting down and not talking to me anymore because they're feeling, like they want to withdraw from me because it doesn't feel good to be connected with me because I'm addressing something that they've done. And so I begin to walk on eggshells and say, you know what? I'm just not going to bring it up, right? And I literally thought I was doing the right thing. I'm just not going to bring it up because I don't want it to cause another argument. I don't want it to cause another fight. I don't want them to shut down. It's kind of like we're not in a good place, but I feel like if I say what I need to say, we're going to be in a worse place. So we're not in a good place because I'm not really being open about how I'm feeling, but it's a better place than if I am open about how I'm feeling and then you shut down on me. And then it's like I'm in this relationship. Then I feel like I'm the cause. Like I'm the problem. Like I always reference Taylor Swift, like it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. That's how I would genuinely feel. And that's how a lot of my private clients feel. And that's probably how you feel. It's like this is all going to end up being my fault. So I might as well not even say anything. Even if everything is because of my partner triggering me, it's going to end up being my fault because I got triggered. I've had partners say to me, "You're always getting triggered. Everything with you is a trigger." Like I thought I was doing the right thing by mentioning the triggers, but then they in turn were just like, "Well, what's new? You're triggered again." Kind of like patronizing me. And so the next reason that your partner or you could start walking on eggshells in your PMDD relationship is, the inconsistency in the way that you or your partner reacts. Um, the way I react in luteal phase and PMDD is way different from how I react in my follicular phase. That is a fact. Your partner may not be comfortable with that. They don't feel safe not knowing how you are going to react. What version of you they going to get? So for me, in my follicular phase, I can be really open, really intentional, really listening to you and your triggers and your concerns and say, okay, I see how you can feel like that, and be really apologetic and really solution based of, okay, so what can we do about it? And that can feel really good for the partner because they're feeling validated. They're feeling like they're getting the attention that they need in order to address the issues, and they're feeling safe. And then when I go into my luteal phase, for me, I may shut down. Like you may tell, oh, I don't like when you do this. Okay, well, then I'm going to do nothing. I may go in my hole and shut down and just feel like, well, I don't have the energy to navigate filtering my responses. And I don't feel like I can control what it is that I say and do in a way that's not going to trigger you. So I'm just going to take space. Right. So that can be my reaction in luteal phase, whereas some people in luteal phase will get really combative and really fight with you. I mean, really fight with you. And so it's almost like when they're talking to you, they don't know which version of you they're going to get. And so that inconsistency and the way you react to them bringing up things that are really triggering them, that's going to cause them to walk on eggshells because they're going to be like, I don't know whether I say it or whether I don't say it. Like, I feel like I'm suffering if I say it, and I'm suffering if I don't because I still have it in my mind. And so the next reason that you or your partner may be walking on eggshells is you have a lot of PMDD guilt. Once you've said and done something to your partner that has really hurt them, really damaged them, and you're in that place of you're able to see it, you may be feeling really guilty. So now you feel like you need to be extra nice. You need to be extra accommodating to their feelings. You need to do extra things because you caused damage in your relationship. Where if you internally figured out, I was actually the problem. I actually did this. The thing that they're accusing me of, hurting their feelings, saying that, whatever I said to hurt their feelings, I actually said it and did it. I feel guilty about it. So now I'm going to walk on eggshells and make sure I don't say anything that hurts them. I don't say anything to trigger them. What does that do? Go back to breaking down that communication. You may internalize a lot of the things that you've said and done to your partner, either while they're in PMDD or while you were in PMDD. And because you're feeling responsible for your partner being anxious, you're feeling responsible for your partner being depressed. You're feeling responsible for your partner walking on eggshells. You see them walking on eggshells and you're like, yep, that's my fault. Had I not done this, had I not said this, that would have never happened. So you're internalizing all of that blame and that guilt, and you're just allowing it to eat you alive. And so you're walking on eggshells. So you're overly cautious when you're in your interaction. You may feel really, really anxious and fidgety around your partner because you don't want to say or do the wrong thing. You're just like, they may say, oh, how are you feeling? You may do that toxic positivity. Everything's fine, babe. Everything's fine. Everything's amazing. When it's really not. But you don't feel like you're giving yourself the permission for it not to be okay because you know that you've done something to hurt your partner. And so the next reason that you may feel like you're walking on eggshells is because you have this, what I call emotional fatigue, meaning you've gone through so many fights, so many arguments, so many blowups, so much PMDD rage, all of that. You're just exhausted. You're exhausted and you're burnt out about talking about the same things again and again and again, going off about the same things again and again and again, getting triggered about the same things again and again and again that you're tired. So when you're approaching your partner, it's almost like you're waving the white flag. Like, I don't have anything more to give you. I don't, whatever it is that you want it to be, it is. Like, you're not fighting with them. You're not arguing with them. You're not disagreeing with them. You're almost overly agreeing with them because you're feeling like, I would rather agree with you and there to be some level of peace than for me to actually tell you what's really going on with me. And it end up being a fight and it end up being an argument. And I end up feeling horrible about myself. So you just choose. So that is a choice that you make to walk on eggshells. It's a way of protecting yourself from a lot of the trauma that can happen when you don't. And you say what you really want to say. And the next way that you may be walking on eggshells with your partner is if anything that you do with your PMDD partner feels like the wrong move. I've seen this so many times where it doesn't matter, where partners feel like it doesn't matter what I do, it's the wrong move. She's going to say I'm wrong. No, even if I switch things around, like I'll be on private sessions and I'll give like homework or give kind of tools. And they say, it doesn't matter what I do. She's going to think I'm wrong. She's going to think I'm the enemy. She's going to think that I should be doing something differently. I'm going to feel like the bad guy regardless. So you start walking on eggshells because you've lost hope. And so what walking on eggshells does, now that you know what it looks like, it really creates a wall between you and your PMDD partner. You can't be intimate and be walking on eggshells. I'm going to repeat that. You cannot be intimate and be walking on eggshells. And by intimate, I don't just mean physically with having sex. I mean intimate with having that close relationship with your partner that's going to be fulfilling. You're not going to feel fulfilled if you're constantly walking on eggshells and feeling like I can't, you're creating these parameters. I can't say and do these things. You're creating this. So you don't feel safe. You can never really relax. When I'm walking on eggshells, I cannot relax. I have to be on high alert all the time. And there's this level of hypervigilance. And when there's this level of hypervigilance, your cortisol levels are increased and there's a lot of stress within your relationship. So I want you to get to the point where you are recognizing that if you're walking on eggshells, there is a better way. I want you to feel heard. I want you to feel seen. I want you to feel validated. What you have to say in your PMDD relationship matters. I'm going to repeat that. What you have to say in your PMDD relationship matters. Stop thinking that you can just brush it off. Stop thinking that you can just cover it up and everything will be okay. And maybe you're making a big deal out of nothing. If it's consistently triggering you, if it's consistently bothering you, then it matters. And the solution isn't for you to hold everything in because it's not sustainable. Holding your triggers in from your partner is not sustainable. You cannot heal what you don't reveal. You cannot heal what you don't reveal. Meaning, if you don't reveal the triggers that you have with your PMDD partner, if you don't reveal the triggers that you have in your relationship, then you can't heal them to move forward. You're going to keep walking on eggshells, keep holding everything in, and then you're going to get bitter and resentful about it. And your partner's not even going to know. Your actions and your mood and your vibe is going to start to change with your partner. They're going to feel it, but you're not telling them why. And so they're going to feel helpless. They're going to feel like, oh, whatever I do, she's going to feel like this. And it's going to be drawing you and your partner further and further apart. So walking on eggshells is not what you're supposed to do in order to avoid conflict. Addressing and revealing what you need to heal is how you move forward. So if that's something that you need help with, go to my website, inlovewithpmdd.com, get those private sessions and really get to a place where you're willing to heal. Like you have to show your partner what's going on in a way that don't wait until you're in an argument and then be like, oh, I'm ready to reveal everything that's wrong with me. Well, that's the wrong space and time. Because now they're already triggered, they're already defensive, but that seems like that's the only time that you're willing to say what's really going on with you. That's what really happens with a lot of private clients and a lot of people that they go wrong with it. They feel like, well, I told them what was going on. I told them that I was triggered. I told them that I was mad. Yeah, when did you tell them? In the middle of an argument, when they're already defensive. You didn't tell them in a place where they're calm, where they're open, where they're loving, and they're willing to listen, and they're in a place where they can listen without getting, their emotions all over the place. You waited until you were so overly triggered, they were so overly triggered, you have a big blow up, and then now you're willing to address all of your issues. The correct way to address your issues is not in the middle of an argument. That's why we have private sessions. That's why you need to be meeting on a consistent basis with me to address a lot of the issues that come up on a day-to-day basis, because once they pile up and once you've held them in for so long, PMDD rage is coming in hot. And then you're not going to be able to hold it in, and then it's too late. And then you immediately feel the PMDD guilt. And I don't want that for you. I don't want you to be in that place of feeling like, oh, I'm so horrible. I can't believe I said that to my partner. I can't believe I did that. Well, the reason is because when you initially had issues and triggers to address with your partner, you didn't do it. So this is what happens. And then you both end up walking on eggshells, and it's really hard for you to get out of that. Once you develop the habit of walking on eggshells, if you look back on your relationship, it'll become a pattern. It'll become a pattern. Every time you go into PMDD, every time they notice that you're in PMDD, they'll start walking on eggshells. Every time you notice you're in PMDD, you'll start walking on eggshells because you've created that pattern in your relationship. It's time to break that pattern. Get out of that pattern of feeling like walking on eggshells is a common thing in your PMDD relationship. Like, oh, I guess this is just the way to be. Every time I go into PMDD, I'm just going to walk on eggshells. That's not comfortable for you, and it's not comfortable for your partner. So if you know that that's something that you need help with, go to my website, get those private sessions, and I will see you in there. We got this. Love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.